Hello, Nicole. Okay, it looks like you made some revisions after last week's feedback, so let's go right over to your composition. Let's take a look. Okay, so just trying to get this into the window. Okay, there we go. Okay, good. I want to reduce that just a little bit. Excellent. Okay, so we'll go through the entire composition and then we'll take a look at typography. We'll look at layout and we'll start talking about possible um, recommendations. Okay, so I think the cover looks great, but I do not recommend leaving the contact information on the cover. I really don't. I mean, contact information is going to go on the back. And just about, I mean, most people that pick up a trifold brochure know that all you got to do is flip it over to the back and you get that full contact information. So I think I'm in favor of keeping the front panel really super clean and inviting. And I think that the use of negative space right here, this area as just being white with no information, it's just really going to pop that cover and make it super inviting. You're even going to be able to, what I would recommend is this, is get rid of the contact information, place it on the back. Then what I would do is reduce the size of the logo, Thrive DC, and the tagline. And then move it down just a little bit in the composition so it takes up something like this right here. Okay, then the contact information would go on the back. Now, got a little bit of inconsistency in your presentation here because this isn't a box, but the rest aren't. Okay, they're all presented in red. This one's in black, but it's in a box. So that points to inconsistency. I think we can even take a look to see that these aren't in alignment either. Okay, volunteer is up a little bit higher than important numbers. So you definitely want to get those in alignment. I'm not sure about this is a really, really aggressive typeface. All cap, it's a modern, looks like it's not a modern typeface. It's almost, yeah, it would fall in modern, yeah. But the thick strokes are so thick and uh, variation from the thin to the thick strokes is drastic. So the thick strokes are very aggressive because they're very thick. I would select a different typeface for this. Serif definitely for sure, but that's a nice relationship, sans serif to serif that you're using here. But I would not recommend that typeface here, that all cap type. It's just too bulky, too blocky, a little too aggressive. Okay, let's talk about boy, I wouldn't even include the map. I wouldn't. I think that, it's not likely that somebody's going to take a trifold brochure and use the map as directions to try to get to the location, right? As long as the contact information is on the brochure and it's inviting enough for the viewer to take a look at the website, they're going to get all the information they need. So I don't see the feasibility, or I don't see any benefit of including a map here. What I would recommend is definitely placing the logo on the back cover. So I would do this logo like this, then contact information. Instead of important numbers, just say contact information, and then get your main contact information down. Then you could do important numbers if you need to. I'm not real sure. Thrive DC. So you've got these important numbers. You could even present those as maybe supplementary information towards the bottom of the page underneath the social media icons. So in summary, on the back panel, we would do logo and then contact information, then the contact information, the social media icons, and then important numbers. And you can reduce those since they're not, they're playing a supporting role in terms of hierarchy. Okay, we got some inconsistency here. This is centered, whereas this is all justified. But this is justified with the last line centered. That's a problem. I don't, in close to 30 years, I've never set type justified with the last line centered. It's too funky. I've just change that. If you want to justify your type, just change that last line flush left. Okay, and it will really make a big difference pushing that over. Now, in this justified type, there is a tutorial over in the announcements area, and it's how to correctly set justified type. There's a trick to it. It barely ever, if ever, comes out of the package, so to speak, comes out default computer settings. Always, I should say, most of the time, yield these unusual large spaces. Not so much prevalent on this page, but we can really see them here. Look at these huge spaces between your words here. And then there's other lines where everything is squished together really tightly. And that's just by nature of justified type settings. So be sure to set your justified type settings, okay? And take that tutorial. Okay, let's see. Oh, over here, this line length is too long. It's really difficult for a viewer to go, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 times from the end of here all the way to the beginning here, specifically since this isn't reg justified or it's not flush left. So there's a different entry point at each time, which means the viewer has to do work every time they go from here, read this long line of type, then go all the way back here, try to find the next line, the beginning of it, and then do the same thing over and over and over again. This isn't going to get read by the third line. The viewer's going to, there's going to be a lot of eye fatigue, and that's going to preclude the viewer from finishing reading this. So I would definitely consider maybe a 2-column type spread there, or somehow recompose that typography. Now, one of the things I've got couple of questions about the way this is going to fold. So right now it looks like the fold is right here. So let's bring that down. So yeah, the fold is going to cut your headline right there. That could be a problem. It's kind of okay to treat this as one panel, but well, I guess it's okay, but the thing is it's only cutting really just the A, so that could be problematic. You might consider reducing the size of this right here. Okay, that covers front. Okay, I highly recommend that you take that tutorial in the announcements area and learn how to set numerals using old style figures. Learn how to set type using small caps as opposed to all caps where applicable, PM. Looking for some other areas. DC, small caps there. So definitely think about using your small caps and your old style figures. Also, M-N-, okay? That's an N dash right there. That's a dash, it looks like. I don't know, check that. Those should be N dashes right there. So make sure, N as in Nancy. Make sure they are. Yep, old style figures, small caps right there. Okay, all right, now as far as general layout, because I've talked about typography, I want to talk about general layout. So I think as we talked about the cover, we talked about the back. Let me see something here. Yeah, this works pretty well. I think this column's good. Now, using a drop shadow is okay, but drop shadow rarely comes out default looking good. I always reduce the intensity, reduce the intensity of the drop shadow, and sometimes I bring it a little closer to the image. It's just too dark. It's really prominent. Just try to make that much more subtle. And then also watch your angles of your drop shadows. Right here, this indicates a light source coming from up here. Same thing up here. But then we get to the bottom and we see these ones are a little different because this one is falling to the left. So the light source is over here on these ones. So that's an inconsistency. Boy, this image right here just looks like it's forced. Honestly, it looks like, and this is a great example of negative space. Try to work some negative space into your, it looks like, honestly, as a professional designer, I look at this and I say, this designer is just really nervous about using white space. So they chose this image, and I don't mean to sound discouraging, chose this image to try to fill in the white space. Now, I know I talked about not stretching this image, but I think this would probably be a little more effective if you were able to somehow increase the size of this, maybe even foregoing these images or reconfiguring them. I'm not real sure, but I think that this would suffice, even centered in this panel right here. I don't think you need that image there. It looks forced. Okay, this shape of these swirls and the color, I would duplicate that. See that swerve right there, that curve? Duplicate that right here. This almost looks like it's a circle under here. but this is certainly maybe not. I don't know, it's hard to say, but I would just kind of enlarge that and use the same exact configuration there and color too. So you have this color here. You might as well, you could even, if you want to use red here, you could even add just a little blue down here, right? That'll point to consistency. Okay, so those are my recommendations. Yeah, it's going to work. Definitely, it's definitely going to work. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. But yeah, I would sure like to see those changes. I think it's really going to make a big difference in the composition. So think about it. You're using this color. I just noticed something. Like there's an anomaly in your design, and it's this use of yellow right here. So I don't see it anywhere else in the brochure. There's a basic rule in design that states that if you're using something once, either use it again or get rid of it. You don't want any anomalies in your design decision, and we have one right here, being that type is presented in yellow, whereas there's no yellow used elsewhere in the composition. So think about that. All right, so those are my recommendations. As I said, it's really super important. If you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. And sure. All right, great. Thank you very much. Great start.